Hi there, I'm Coen Tan, your strategic communications coach. The general election is here, and in this series of videos, I will be watching and viewing a series of GE speeches as well as debates that's televised. And my purpose is to give some comments and review some tips on how you can improve your communication skills, presentation skills, and executive presence, whether be it at work or in business. One big disclaimer here though, I am not a political expert, so I'm not here to provide any political analysis, nor am I here to sway your political allegiances. So that's a big disclaimer. We are here to learn how we can improve our communication skills. Hello, and in this video I'm going to be reviewing the 1st of July debate between the representatives of the opposition party and PAP's Dr. Vivian Balakrishnan. So I'm just going to roll the tape and I'm going to offer you some reviews and comments.
You know, Dr. Lim, I read your manifesto, and actually, to be honest with you, we could have written the same manifesto.
We like that.
And that's why people have called the Workers' Party PAP Light or PAP like. It's almost a position where whatever line or stand the PAP has taken, you basically use that as your reference point and take a half step to the left. And that's why we really don't have too many fundamental things to disagree about.
Ooh, he has fired the first salvo. As you can see, right, his body language and the way he looks at Dr. Jamus Lim, he speaks with a smile. It's almost like he's speaking to Dr. Jamus Lim as like his little son. And so his body language and his tonality is friendly, but he does pack a punch with some of his very veiled, subtle attacks. The first attack is, of course, he says that I've read your manifesto, and to be honest, we could have written the same manifesto. So that already in a way is disarming the opposition, because for many years the opposition party have always said that they are there to maintain a check and balance on the ruling party, and that they will offer alternative voices of the citizens. And so by saying that your manifesto is what we have written, he's saying that you are not so different after all. So he has diffused that. And secondly, he went on to further reinforce that by saying that that's why people has referred to Workers' Party as PAP Light. And when you refer something to a light version, you're actually saying that you are a lesser version of the original. And those are very subtle attacks that he has already made on Dr. Jamus Lim. So let's see how he responds to that. But also in the early sequence, you notice that when he said that honestly, we could have written the same manifesto. And Dr. Jamus did something very clever. He was making eye contact with Dr. Balakrishnan, but he looked away, he looked down, and he nodded his head and he says, we like that. So he interjected by saying, we like that. So that's a very subtle way of diffusing the attack. So let's see how Dr. Jamus continue to diffuse that. Because how he does that, diffuse the attack is going to make or break this debate.
But even that half step left,
You need to get to your question,
has
Dr.
got
Balakrishnan.
fiscal questions. And I'm just asking you, in all the the little steps left, how are you going to the trade-off with cost, and who pays for it?
Here he went on further, right? Because he said a half step left. Why a half step but not a full step? You also kind of think about it, right? When you make a half step, there's a certain subtle suggestion that you're not fully committed in making that step. And why making a step to the left, not a step to the right? Of course, in political connotations, the left side has got connotations of less desirable. So let's watch how he diffused this.
And how do you allocate that cost?
Dr. Lim,
Thank you.
half.
So thanks for the question, Dr. Balakrishnan. I think the kind of meta point that is being asked is that whether we are in fact just equivalent to the PAP. And I think we have often emphasized in the Workers' Party that we do not necessarily object to policy just because of the sake of objection. Ultimately, what we want is the right policy. I think the fact that we're having a debate and agitating toward an answer is a step positive in that direction. Now, you have...
All right. So we have seen how he has responded. So he responded very cleverly by saying that, let's take a look at the meta point. So what's a meta point? The meta point is the point behind the point. So he has straight away diffused the attack by Dr. Vivian Balakrishnan by saying that, let's look at the point of what exactly you're trying to say. In NLP terms, this is called chunking down. So chunking up or chunking down. When you chunk up, you go more general. You chunk down, you go into more specific. So here he actually went meta. Meta means the point behind the point, being more specific. So he is really saying that, okay, I hear you talking about, step to the left. We are WP is a PAP light. He's like, all of that are just, fluff. All of that is just a veiled attack. Let's go to the point. Let's go to the meta point we are discussing here. So he has very cleverly diffused the attack without acknowledging it. And then he went on to say that the very fact that we are having this debate in the first place and having this conversation, we are getting to the point already, right? It's like that's what we are here for. The purpose of this manifesto is really so that we are here to have a debate. So I thought he has very, very cleverly really diffused the attack. So let's see whether he continued to distinguish himself. So far, I will give him full marks for his diffusion of the attack.
Then went on to say that what we have done is move to the left, and the kind of underlying query is that, well, perhaps by moving to the left, we are being irresponsible fiscally.
Not at all.
Well,
Whoa. So he is making Dr. Balakrishnan do a bit of a backtrack by saying that the fact that you are alluding to us making a point may suggest that we are being irresponsible. And Dr. Balakrishnan said, no, not at all. Anytime you can get the opponent to take back a little bit of the sting of the attack, you're already on the right track. You're already making a great defense, and they're already beating a retreat. So let's roll it.
I would like to emphasize, within the manifesto, we have actually done the math behind it, and everything within our budget.
So you see here, right, his body language is, you start to see him moving a little bit more, he's fidgeting a little bit more, and even when he said when we had done our math, he's nodding his head. And this reminds me of a very important concept about status. They are learned from my theatre and improvisation guru, Keith Johnston. So Keith Johnston said that theatre is entertaining because there's a storyline, and the audience gets to see the story because there's an imbalance of status. If the status of all the characters are equal, there's no story, right? And so actors have to portray who is of higher status and who is of lower status by their little body language changes on stage. So how we can apply it in executive presence and leadership communications sphere is we start to see, right, he started off very well with a good riposte to the attack, but now he's starting to move his body a little bit more, and that's communicating lower status. When you talk slowly and when you keep your head still, you convey high status. But when you speak faster and when you move a lot and fidget a lot, you are actually conveying low status. So we are starting to see Dr. Jamus Lim here betraying his little nervousness and anxiety. So if he had kept his head still and said, we have done our math, that would be more powerful than saying, we have done our math. He's nodding his head like a little boy saying, yeah, I've done my homework. Or he's nodding his head like, as though he's trying to convince himself that he really did his math. So here is where he took some points away. So let's continue to roll and see how he recovers.
It actually is budget neutral. Now, what is true though is that it does entail a set of trade-offs. Yes. And I cannot emphasize this enough. I think where we fundamentally differ is where we think those trade-offs actually should occur. Now, the PAP would tend to side on the side of capital. We think, in fact, that for every dollar of national income...
So we notice here that as he is continuing to talk and share, he's making eye contact with the other two gentlemen on the table, the other two opposition parties on the table. And this is a very clever technique for not just presentation skills, but also communication skills in a meeting. So very typically, when you are answering a question from one person, typically you look at only that person, right? But as he's giving his answer, he's making not only eye contact, not just sweeping eye contact, but sustained eye contact with the other opposition party representatives. And in this way, he's conveying to them, yep, I still haven't forgotten about you. I am still speaking to every one of you. And also, secondly, by involving them, he is enrolling them into the conversation to lend strength to his words. So here is where he has done a very clever communication strategy, and we see him rising in confidence and in status again.
Singaporean workers already receive an insufficient amount, 42 cents. Compare that to 55 cents in Japan, and much higher in other high-income countries. And we think that a rebalance of that kind of share of labor income is ultimately necessary.
Very good. Time for
Fantastic. So he has also quoted some statistics, numbers, not just in Singapore, but also in Japan. And that really backs up his claim that he has done his maths. So now he has completed his answer. It is his turn to ask Dr. Balakrishnan a question. So now we get to see a contrast in how Dr. Balakrishnan answered those questions, and we see whether he continued to maintain a high status.
Your question now.
Yes. So I will likewise ask Dr. Balakrishnan a meta question.
Sure.
And the meta question is this: you have listed all the policies, and I agree with the spirit of the policies, which is the PAP has put in one of the largest stimulus policies post-COVID-19.
Yes.
But how much has the PAP actually evaluated the efficacy of its policies? And I ask this in the context of things that were already raised. Dr. Chi mentioned that productivity, in spite of the fact that since 1972, the PAP has tried to raise productivity unsuccessfully. You talk about the progressive wage model, but yet, as Mr. Yuan pointed out, we are still in a position where we still see the elderly.
Get your question very soon.
And that is the question. It is how much the PAP has actually estimated the efficacy of the policies it rolls out. Because I would have lack of confidence that their big budgets might actually do the job.
Okay, great. So here we see him asking his question, and again, he has made an effort to enroll the contributions of the other two opposition parties by calling back what they said earlier on. So in communication skills, this is what's called a callback. When you do a callback, what you're doing is you are actually borrowing the strength of contributions from previous speakers and borrowing strength and adding that to your own argument. And I thought that was extremely clever of him to do that. And the second thing that you actually observe here is that as he is setting up the context for his question, the moderator asked him, so what is your question? Can you go straight to the point of your question? And we see that both of them, even earlier on with Dr. Balakrishnan, he also had the same little reprimand. I guess the moderator is doing this in the interest of time. But I disagree with him. I personally believe that by giving the context before you throw the question is a very clever communication technique. Why? Why do I say that? Number one, when you set the context, right, you minimize the possible misunderstanding by the other party, and so you allow them to answer the questions according to the context that you set up. Secondly, right, if they have asked the questions at the start before they set the context, by the time they finish setting the context, the other person is like, can you repeat your question again, because the question was asked way too early. So it's actually better to ask the question at the end. And finally, if you have asked the question right at the start before you set the context, you're giving your opponent a lot of time to actually formulate their thoughts and the answer. So it'd be better if you just set the context before you finally drop the bomb of the question. So I would actually say that this is a great questioning techniques for communications and debate.
Well, I think the first
Dr.
point is that actually you agree substantively with most of our policies. First point.
So here we notice, right, straight away the difference, the stark difference in the way Dr. Balakrishnan answered the questions. Number one, you see his hand gestures is pointed like that. It's like pointed at Dr. Jamus. So this is a kind of a subtle attack, right, pointed towards the opponent. Number one. Number two, he spoke slower with less movement of his head, which communicates higher status. And you also see that he's sitting more upright than Dr. Jamus. And here you see it from the camera angle. It's not just a camera angle, but it's almost like eye level here. You see that his eye level is slightly higher than Dr. Jamus' eye level. And when your eye level is higher, you are already very conveying a subtle difference in status. So as we roll the tape here, we continue to see how Dr. Balakrishnan continue his strong showing.
We're a city-state. We have to bring in investments. And some of these, and you will know full well, the nature of these investments, high capital investments, high-tech investments, high intellectual property investment.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Here we see him coming into his strength. High capital investments, high tech investments, high intellectual property investments. This is a very classic rhetorical device and a communication framework for politicians and when you are making a persuasive speech. This is what's called triads. When you communicate in triads, you're actually adding a lot of rhythm, cadence, and momentum to the way you speak. You notice high capital investments, high tech investments, high intellectual capital investments. With each high, he becomes higher and higher. He kind of punches the point home with a very nice rhythm to it. So this is something that you can actually learn when you are trying to give a persuasive presentation. And not only that, he's also using another rhetorical devices called the anaphora. The anaphora is where the repetition of the word high at every subsequent clause. So when you keep using the word high, 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 you are driving home the point that yes, the investments are indeed high. So another point that we can learn here.
Will not generate the same labor share of much of the last industrial.
So we see here his body language from the last industrial and his hand still moved in that direction. That's very much similar to what he was referring to, the Workers' Party's half a step to the left. So you see this is what's called a hologram technique. When you're using body language like that, that actually you have already done it beforehand, and then you anchor that to the Workers' Party's half step to the left, you are once again saying that, your half step to the left is from the last industrial age. You are saying that your half step to the left is antiquated and old. So another very clever technique that he's using here. And if I continue rolling the tape, you see.
Revolution. So I think
you see that he is leaning forward as he's talking to Dr. Jamus. And remember, you see the eye level here. He is still sitting more upright while Dr. Jamus is kind of like leaning forward and more slouching. And so Dr. Jamus here is shown to be lower status while Dr. Balakrishnan is leaning forward. When you're leaning forward, you're actually claiming more space. You're actually demonstrating even higher status. Whoa, so we saw that a little bit of exchange there between Dr. Jamus Lim and Dr. Vivian Balakrishnan. So it's easy to prepare a speech and go up and give a presentation to people, even though we are nervous. But our leadership executive presence is really tested when we are in a firing line, when we are being openly challenged in an open meeting setting, or even when we are televised to the national audience. And so I feel that today Dr. Jamus Lim has really distinguished himself. He came across as very eloquent. He came across as very well-spoken, and none of the wild sweeping statements that we sometimes hear politicians make. So the exchange was extremely respectful, and I think Dr. Vivian Balakrishnan would have also appreciated that from Dr. Jamus. I think he has met a very strong opponent today, and I would say that Dr. Balakrishnan also stepped up to the plate. And there are several pointers that we have learned from both of them. So what have you taken from this video? I'd like to hear your comments down below in this comment section if you like the video. And also, if you'd like me to analyze any other presentations by the political candidates, please also drop it in the comments below or direct message me, and I'll be happy to do a review of those speeches as well. This is Coen Tan, your strategic communications coach.